Jiri Procházka versus Jamahal Hill is finally happening at UFC 311 this January, and this fight feels like it's been years in the making. These two have had crazy careers leading up to this moment, with both holding the light heavyweight titles at different times, but injuries and chaos in the division kept them apart until now. Now, if you guys remember, Jiří became champ by beating Glover Teixeira in one of the most wildest fights I've ever seen in 2022. It was an all-time classic. They were supposed to run it back, but Jiří suffered one of the worst shoulder injuries in UFC history, forcing him to vacate the belt. This injury completely shook up the division. The UFC tried to crown a new champion with Magomed Ankalaev versus Jan Blachowicz, but that fight ended in a draw. Dana White was furious, and then he decided to book Jamahal Hill versus Glover for the belt. Hill stepped up big time and dominated Glover to become the champ at UFC 283. At that point, it seemed like we were finally going to get Jiří versus Hill. But then, sadly, Hill tore his Achilles, another brutal injury, and he had to vacate the title. The belt ended up on the line between Alex Pereira and Jiri Procházka at UFC 295. Alex won and became the new champion, but everyone was still waiting for the original matchup, which was Jiří versus Hill. Now, here we are, both fighters are healthy, and this is official. It's a huge deal for the 205-pound division. Jiří brings that wild, unpredictable style, while Hill is all about technique and power. Both are finishers, so don't expect this one to go to the judges. Now, this fight is massive for both guys because neither one can really afford to take an L. Jiří's coming off a tough loss where Alex Pereira completely outclassed him, and it was a rough one to watch. After that, Jiří was even talking about dropping down to the middleweight division, which shows you just how shaken he might have been, because his crazy unpredictable style worked against most people in the division, but Alex was just too sharp. Jiří needs this win to remind everyone and himself that he's still a top dog. Then there's Jamahal Hill, who's in a similar spot. His knockout loss at UFC 300 wasn't great, and since then, he's been all over social media going back and forth with the fans, which hasn't exactly helped his case. And if he loses this fight, the internet's gonna blow up with people calling him overrated, and knowing Jamahal, he'll probably argue with everyone and maybe even throw out some excuses. It might be entertaining, but it won't help his image. Alright, but let's be real. I've got to say, I think Jamahal Hill takes this one. Now, don't get me wrong, this is going to be an absolute war. I see it going for multiple rounds, and if I'm not mistaken, it should be a 5-round fight. That said, this fight really shouldn't come as a shock. A lot of people were already picking Jamahal Hill as the guy to beat Jiří not too long ago, and now he's got the chance to prove it. And look, man, Jamahal Hill's style is all about staying disciplined and sticking to the basics, which give him a big advantage over Jiri Procházka. You know, his wild and unpredictable approach. Hill doesn't take unnecessary risks, which means he rarely leaves himself open for counters. On the other hand, Procházka's flashy and chaotic style creates openings for both him and his opponents. While Procházka's movement can be hard to predict, they also leave him exposed. This was clear in the fight against Glover Teixeira, where Glover was able to repeatedly catch him during exchanges. Hill's patient and calculating striking would allow him to capitalize on similar mistakes. But one critique I have of Hill is that he tends to keep his chin a little high in exchanges, which can make him vulnerable if somehow he manages to close the distance and lands clean. However, Hill is a very good at managing range and keeping his opponents at the end of his punches. Against someone like Procházka, who throws loopy and wild shots, Hill's straight punches could land first and do more damage. Now, Procházka's risky style works against fighters who get drawn into a chaotic pace, but Hill's calm and measured approach makes it less likely that he'll fall into that trap. Because Procházka has been caught plenty of times because how open he leaves himself in fights. Dominic Reyes hurt him multiple times, Volkan Ozdemir landed big shots on him, and Glover Teixeira had him on the ropes before Jiří pulled off that late submission win. Procházka's durability gets him through those moments, but it's a dangerous game to play against someone like Hill, who doesn't need to take big risks to do damage. Hill's precision and ability to stay composed under pressure could be the difference maker. Now, what makes this matchup especially interesting in the contrast in styles, Hill doesn't get sucked into wild exchanges. He's calculated and sticks to to his game plan. Procházka, while exciting and unpredictable, can't always rely on the chaos to save him. If Hill can stay disciplined and pick his shots, he has the tools to take advantage of the openings that Procházka will inevitably give him. Procházka's risky style might work against certain opponents, but against someone as sharp and as focused as Hill, it can lead into trouble. This fight has all the ingredients to be a striking chess match with some explosive moments, but Hill's fundamentals and patience might give him the edge. And I'm not saying that Jiří can't win this fight, because he totally can, because as wild and reckless as Jiří Procházka's chaotic style is, it's also incredibly effective. Yes, he does get hurt a lot in fights, and yes, someone like Jamahal Hill should, in theory, be able to counter him multiple times, but I truly believe that Jiří's unorthodox approach will still work in this matchup. His ability to create chaos and thrive, his unpredictable exchange, is what makes him so dangerous, and it's a style that a few fighters can handle. Jiří's whole thing is about being chaotic and unpredictable. It's what makes him so dangerous. But if he tries to change that and fight in more of a calculated, precise ways, I think it's gonna mess him up. That's just not who he is, and as a fighter, he thrives when everything is wild. So the best shot is to lean into that chaos and try to force Hill into a brawl. Hill is really solid on the feet, but his footwork isn't great. Probably one of the weaker aspects of his game. If Jiří can overwhelm him with pressure and non-stop attacks, he might find a way to catch Hill off guard. And yeah, Hill's the champ, but he doesn't have a ton of experience against someone as unpredictable and high level as Jiří. That's the kind of style that's hard to prepare for. The Achilles injury that Hill suffered could also play a big role. An injury like that can mess with your movement and explosiveness, which are huge when you're trying to deal with someone as wild as Jiří. If Hill's not moving as well as he used to, Jiří might be able to capitalize and make it a really rough night for him. That said, Hill's not just going to fold under pressure. He's shown that he can stay calm and adjust mid-fight, so even if Jiří brings the heat, Hill can still find a way to figure him out. It's gonna come down to whether Jiří's chaos can break through Hill's composure, or if Hill can weather the storm and pick his shots to take Jiří out. Either way, it's gonna be a freaking crazy fight. However, for now, as an early prediction, I think Jamahal Hill will win this matchup after a long, tough war. Jiří's style will definitely have its moments and really be effective in parts of the fight, but I think Hill's technique skills will ultimately give him the edge. To me, Hill is just a little too sharp and precise, plus I feel like Alex Pereira exposed the hole in Jiří's game during their fight, specifically how vulnerable Jiří could be to someone who stays disciplined and sticks to the smart, technical approach. I believe Hill can take that blueprint and adapt it into its own style, leaning on more of a boxing-heavy game plan to land clean shots and avoid unnecessary risks. Jiří's wildness could cause problems, but Hill's ability to stay calm under pressure and pick his moments might be the difference here. Over the course of the fight, I see Hill landing more effective shots and doing just enough to win the fight, probably in a third round finish. But anyways guys, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like always guys, I'll see you guys on my next one.